Blog Talk Radio.
Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And in the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I see aspiring to be free. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Within and without, above and below, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. Without and within, below and above, yeah, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I find in tune with the divine. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. For to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shabbat Shalom, holy angel of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence.
Thank you for joining me today here on Activating Compassion in the midnight hour. And it's not quite midnight hour this week. We're running a little bit early for our Halloween show. And we're actually going to be doing a little shifting on that title there since we're not running in the midnight hour anymore. Certainly open and welcome to suggestions if people have an idea, but we'll be shifting that name here gradually over the next few weeks as we settle into more of a new and regular, consistent time slot. By the way, my name is Chelsea Ann Nichols George, and I'm your hostess today. The music you were listening to at the beginning of the show is I Sense Your Presence. It's by Shemshai. And I just want to extend a welcome to everybody that's listening, whether you're returning because you've heard the show before and you enjoy what we do here, or whether you're joining us for the very first time. We are streaming live in 3 additional places: TalkStream Live, StreamFinder, and Penn, also known as Para Encounters Network. And I welcome everyone listening through there as well. Here at Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, I look at the different ways that compassion exists in our lives, how to remove our blocks, resistances, frustrations, and more. Some weeks I will be discussing different aspects of how compassion is in our life, how it affects our life, and the different areas of compassion. And some weeks we will be doing more exercises and practical implementations. And then many times I also have guests on the show which are truly amazing. And that way you get a chance to learn about their work and how other things complement and work with compassion, which is really cool. And then I also highlight different musical artists along the way. Last year we had Stephen Halpern, Peter Cater on the air. We've had Joe Matson, Claire Hadeen, Bruce Ciccarelli, Craig Carolus, Harold Grandstaff Moses. So some really great people on the air, and I look forward to bringing more on in the future as well with that. So lots of great people and things happening. In my own work, what I do is I focus on helping people find and use compassion in their everyday lives. And I've created the Genesis Clearing Statement, which is a tool that you can use for both clearing and cleansing and releasing things, as well as manifestation and creating things in your life. So, lots of possibilities with that. Also, if you've missed that, you can catch that in our various archives. I've authored 4 books, the most recent being You, Me, Life Dreams, and its companion workbook. And then my first 2 books, Activating Compassion and its companion workbook. In addition, I've created the Compassion Tour, which is a multi-state nationwide tour, including workshops, retreats, seminars, book signings, and fundraising events. And I am currently on the 2014 tour, passing through the New Jersey area right now. We'll be here for a couple of more days in this region. Then I'm headed to D.C., then out to Atlanta, Georgia, and on to San Antonio, Texas. So, if you're anywhere in that route, and I'm going to be heading into Arizona as well, I have an event that I'll be finishing out the year with in Zion National Park in southern Utah as well. So feel free to contact me and say, hey, I'm somewhere on that route. Even if you can't make it to one of the events, I'm totally open to doing private sessions along the way and connecting with people along the way that are, en route or within a reasonable distance of the route that I'm taking. And you don't know until you check with me and try. You can find out more about the events that I have going on and things that are on my website and the Genesis Statement and all those great things on my website, which is Jessie Ann Nichols George, the1.com. And I do encourage you to go on there and check out because I've had a lot of interviews going on, which gives you a chance to find out more about me and the work I'm doing as well. Just had a great interview with E.W. Breck-Foods recently, actually a couple of days ago. And I have more interviews coming up this upcoming week and had some great ones with DC Love. Really appreciated hanging out with her and Sparkles a few days ago. So lots of good ones to check things out with. Just a reminder, if you do enjoy the show, share it with people because I know when I'm sharing things, there's always somebody that goes, oh, my gosh, I was just talking about that, or that's exactly what I've been trying to figure out. I really appreciate it. And, these can be life-changing things, especially if somebody is stuck or they're frustrated or they're trying to work through something or even if they're trying to progress and develop something in their life. So I find that constantly people are like, oh, I'm so glad you brought this up because I really needed this perception on things. And we're going to be doing some exercises in this show as well, which will make it another reason why you want to share it with people so that they can get the benefits of those. And they can just access it, by the way, through the same link you used to get into the show. They can get to the archives that same way. In addition, we have archived versions that will get put up on YouTube. There will be a podcast available through iTunes and TuneIn.com. And so lots of options depending on what somebody's preference is for finding them. Now, before we get started on everything, one of the things that people who have listened to the show before know I like to do is to delve into a book that's called The 72 Names of God by Yehuda Berg. And I use this book because Yehuda works in the same way I work, which is to take these big complex subjects and to bring them down into everyday life aspects. And when we do that, that's where it makes it practical for us to implement. That's where we actually get the experiences and the benefits is by doing that. And so I like to delve in, get a little message from him every week. And it's funny, whether we initially think that something connects or doesn't connect, it always has a way of connecting in there. And everything has that way of connecting. So it's going to be very interesting to see with this message how that connects in with our Halloween theme of masks and costumes today. So taking a look at this, the name that we have today is actually sexual energy. And this is really interesting because this might not be something that we would normally connect with costumes and masks and things like that. And that is the common name of this name of God, sexual energy. And the little insight or the little message he has preceding this is sex sizzles with intense energy and provokes heightened consciousness. But it's not enough to turn on. We must have courage to tune in also. And by tuning in to the spiritual purpose of sex, we ignite passion in our sexual energy. And this name is our key to the ignition. The insight he provides on this is we tend to view sex as a mechanical sport instead of a sacred, soulful act that can deliver long-term, lasting pleasure. In Kabbalah, the cosmic and the erotic are intimately intertwined. There is a clear-cut connection between the vast universe and our personal sexual life. Attraction, arousal, touch, friction, sparks, and the fusion of two people in lovemaking have all have enormous mystical implications. A lover's kiss or sensual caress contains sparks of delight. Each time a male and female unite in love, our physical world mates with the other world, bringing light to all existence. Thus, lovemaking is also light-making. For the couple locked in embrace and for the world at large, it's an experience that can only be described as divine sex. The key to this unification is avoidance of selfish sex. Self-centered desire and ego prevent a cosmic connection, and that's when sexual energy begins to drain from our own relationships. The meditation that he gives with this is you purify your desires so that you share love and energy with your partner, putting his or her needs ahead of your own. You ignite sexual energy so that your passion helps elevate all existence. You replenish the light that was lost due to any prior selfish sexual activity. And this is really interesting that this particular one would come up. And again, the common name is sexual energy, and the more formal name on this is Kosvav Kuf. Kosvav Kuf. So very interesting aspect. And what's funny is a lot of times when people are getting into some of these acts, they delve into masks. They're wearing masks. They will use costumes in this stimulating of this energy. And that can be an interesting piece. And oftentimes the way we are in our sexual energy has a huge connection to the mask that we're wearing. It has a huge connection to what we're hoping to have in our life, how we're hoping to be, freedom that we're seeking. And as such, ironically, through the mask, that is our true self. And that's something that we're also going to be talking about, how this interrelationship of masks are affecting us in our lives today. So very, very interesting topic. It's interesting that that would come up. And like I said, at first glance, sometimes we think it would have no connection at all, but in reality, there's a lot of connection there in that. So moving on here, a little thought before we go on break, and then we'll take a little break and we'll delve into today's topic. Do you ever hide behind an image? Do you put on a different persona when meeting with different people? And how many sides of you are there? This time of year, as we approach Halloween, and today actually being Halloween here in the U.S., we will find children dressed up in costumes and wearing masks. And this is an interesting concept based on tricking ghosts and goblins of ancient lore into believing that we're one of them so that we will be left alone when they are passing between the worlds. However, for others, it is a time of celebrating a spiritual new year, and it is all about removing the mask that we have been wearing and beginning to focus on the direction we have chosen for the next year. As I start to look at the interesting aspects of the dynamics of wearing a mask, I bring in many different thoughts. How many of us are going through life wearing masks and never know ourselves? It makes me ponder a bit on all of the times that we put on masks to pacify others or to fit into a role such as we do with work. However, this also leads me to see that masks may not be all about hiding ourselves or conforming to the ways of others. This leads me to ask, what if the masks are actually different aspects of ourselves and not a phony persona we use to sell out ourselves in some way? It seems that this should be no different than choosing different clothes to meet the activities we are doing. For example, we're not wear a business suit to go rappelling down a canyon wall. And first, not only does it not provide the type of clothing that's going to protect you, but it will affect the experience that you have. And we are unlikely to grab the full experience or have a conflict arise in the experience if we do not have the gear and tools for what we're doing. In progressing with this thought, I consider the aspect that masks are perhaps likely using different tools or skill sets for the different things we choose to do in life. While understanding how a hammer and nail work may be a good analogy for something in the workplace, those tools will not be as valuable to us as, say, a pen and paper or computer. Likewise, a pen, paper, or computer could be useful in creating designs for building something, but it is unlikely to be very valuable in the actual construction of something. So while we particularly notice the masks and costumes on Halloween, it's important to also realize the value behind the masks and costumes that we use in everyday life. Take the time to see if we are creating conflict or compatibility in the different aspects of ourselves. Do you really feel the part of you that you are playing when you are working, spending time with family or friends or loved ones, or relaxing or being physically active? Oftentimes we will hold back if we do not have the gear or tools for what we are doing. And what are the masks that you are wearing? Are you hiding from something or showing a part of who you really are? Are your masks and costumes compatible to what you do? And is that compatible to who you are? This week, we are focusing on a component of compassion related to the aspect in my book of the hidden enemy. And this reminds us to pay attention to where we are judging ourselves and others, especially where we try to disguise it as something else. I'm going to take a short break, and when we return, I'll be discussing masks and costumes. We're going to delve into a couple of exercises and taking a look at this awesome, incredible Halloween theme. The song that I have for you during our break is called What Is Going On? And this is by Claire Hedin. Claire was a guest on our show a couple of years ago when we first started out. And looking at her work, you can definitely tune into it, find out more about it, check it out more through her website at clairehedin.com. That's CLAREHEDIN.com. We'll be back shortly.
What is going on?
My face goes ruby in the wind. My heart fills indescribably. I see the flowers do their dance. The clouds are moving in a trance. I wish I could walk my beach, feel the sea next to me, walk Father Earth of my youth, live my life in its simple truth. What is going on? It seems the feelings aren't gone. What is going on? There's still this need to return. I miss the freedom of the sea close to me. I miss the sea breeze as it runs its way through me. Tall grasses hide small dogs, flat lands reveal the coast. I see the boats, I hear their masts, they're clicking in the wind so fast. Open hearts and quiet walks, coloring crayons, wonderful books. Heaven and earth meet in me. This is the place where I am free. Gray, gray sky, sometimes blue. This is the place, doesn't matter what you do. Seagulls flying overhead create a chorus in my head. Fishermen pull in their boats. Who owns this place the most? Who owns this place the most? Dripping ice cream, kids on floats. Tell me who owns this place the most. Having a drink on the old seawall. Familiar faces, we had it all. History could walk along the path. Excited, you just run a laugh. Parties right on through the night. Neighbor in village, time to fight. Art in the shops, on the walls. Benjamin Britten, we had it all. Da-dum-da-dum-dum, da-da-da-da. Live this life in its simple truth.
And welcome back. You are listening to Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, which isn't quite on the midnight hour anymore. I am going to be adjusting that name on there. Of course, with Jimmy Buffett's terms, it's midnight somewhere. And my name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I'm your hostess today. The song you were just listening to is called What Is Going On? It was by Claire Hedin, and you can check out more of her work through her website at www.clairehedin.com. And that's CLAREHEDIN.com. And today what we're doing is we're taking a look, I'm kind of sticking with a cool little Halloween theme here, at the role of masks and costumes in our everyday lives. Now, do you hide behind your mask, or are they a part of yourself? And, we're celebrating this experience and the value of celebrating Halloween in your everyday life. The concepts of Halloween have a really special importance on all aspects of our being. So this, I figure, is going to be kind of a fun little topic to delve into and to work with and to explore here today, because there's a lot of great directions that we can go with this. And when we look at masks and costumes, let's kind of delve a little bit. It is Halloween time, and where did some of this theme of wearing masks and costumes come from? You know, there's a lot of people that subscribe to a theory that right now the veils are at their thinnest, and some people may or may not be familiar with what that is all about. And when we talk about the veils being at their thinnest, what we're talking about is the veils between worlds. So that would be between this world and maybe parallel planes or other dimensions. And you know, more and more people are going into this multidimensional way of thinking and existing, and you know, we experience those. And even when we pass from the world, what happens is that we enter through different dimensions, like we pass through the fourth dimension onto other dimensions, such as the fifth dimension, which some people may refer to as heaven, if that's the case, in there. And so when these veils are very thin, it makes it very easy for those who have gone before, those who are waiting to come, those who are in between these worlds, living on these different planes, to pass back and through to our plane. And when the veils are thin like this, you know, for some, we think, can't they pass like this all the time? Why do we need the veils to be thin? Well, you know, like anything, it depends on where the soul is at and where their state of being is at along the way with things, because very evolved souls, souls that have progressed fairly well, pretty conscious, they are easily able to pass back and forth at any time between it. But when we talk about some of the younger souls, the souls that are still growing and developing and learning and things like that, they sometimes do not pass as easily between times, or some of those that have maybe chosen to stick around, they can become more evident in their energy. Their energy connects. There's less of a separation, which is kind of interesting in a sense, because as we progress to our more soulful energy, what we find is that there is less and less of a separation between all of these different dimensions and places and planes and existences that are going on around us. It's as they say, you know, these things are always happening. However, we just don't always see them. So in some ways, I think that when the veils are thin, it's not so much that it's easier for the others to pass as it is it's easier for us to be aware of them, since we're third dimensional and we're the lower, so-called lower vibrating energy as human beings. Now, of course, costumes and things, a lot of the lore was that people were to wear costumes so that when the ghosts were passing through these planes, that they would not be recognized and they could not be taken, and they would not be bothered or fall upon bad luck. There's so many different superstitions with that. And yet, you know, even if we look at today's society, again, if we follow that interdimensional thinking in things, you know, how many of us are here appearing as humans? I mean, let's face it, the skin of a human being is a costume in and of itself. It's a costume that we wear each and every day for an entire lifetime, however long that lifetime is. It comes in a lot of shapes and forms, just like costumes come in a lot of shapes and forms when we wear them at Halloween time. And even within that, we look at how many different species interdimensionally, if we want to look at star seeds and things like that, wear this human being costume. And can we recognize them? You know, are they wearing this human being costume to not be recognized? That I probably could get into to a really big show on that, couldn't I? Might have to watch myself on that, because that's where we start to delve into, you know, our reptilian societies, and that's where we start to delve into our Lyrian societies, and yet we're all taking this common costume, so to say. You know, it's the popular costume to take for doing different things, and it gives us a way to come in and function and to be harder to recognize where we're really coming from, where our starseed energy is really coming from. And as I said, that's just a whole another fascinating topic to think about. And within that aspect as well, we have so many different parts of ourselves. We have our interdimensional selves, we have the different aspects of our human self that are going on. And all of this we wear under the costume or the guise or the mask of a human body. We take on a lot of different roles in our times. And so, this really gets to be interesting because we have a couple of common themes, and that is with costumes, oftentimes it will be a couple of different facets. It could be a facet of protecting ourselves. It can be a facet of hiding who we really are or from who we really are. It can also be an aspect of being who we really are. And when we talk about being who we really are, involving doing the things that we really, really love. So a mask and these different components can serve a lot of different things. It's very interesting. Several years ago, I used to own a retail shop on the coast of California in a little town called Cambria. And at that time, Halloween time was coming along, and this news station had contacted me, and they said, well, we really are looking for some witches. We're looking for some real live witches, and we want to film, an altar and, all the traditional stuff because they're trying to get all this Halloween stuff. I said, well, I really can't do that because that's, breaching people's confidentiality. I can't just give you names and phone numbers of people who do that. But if that's what you want to film, I certainly wish you the best of luck in filming that. However, I'd like to present a different idea to you. And when I got down to it, I said, here's my idea. What I'd like to do is to dispel the myths that we have around witchcraft and Wicca and these aspects. And I said, I will not dress up in a robe. I will not do an altar. I will not do, this traditional feeding the stereotypes. What I'd like to do is to, look at dispelling these stereotypes that we have of people that are doing this and help people realize that these are ordinary people. You would not recognize them walking down the street. Well, of course, that wasn't quite the news story that they were originally looking for on there. And it was, they thought, we're going to find somebody who will, let us do this. Well, as it turned out, they searched around, and they called me back. I think it was the next day, and they said, okay, we'll take your story. And I said, great, this is the way it's going to be. So I invited them into my shop, which was focused a lot on herbs and essential oils and things like that. And I did have some herbs, dragon's blood, which is used for inks and things like that are oftentimes used for magical inks and things like that. But they came in, we did a story, and lo and behold, if they didn't put it on the 5 o'clock news. Now, keep in mind this little town that I was in was about 4,500 people at the time. And my boyfriend at the time, he was really kind of freaked out because he goes, oh, my God, they're going to burn your shop down. And I'm like, who's going to burn my shop down? And he says, well, this has happened before, and, somebody comes out, and then, there's been 2 other metaphysical shops burned down in this town. And I'm like, nobody's going to burn my shop down. And he was very, very freaked out. And so they put it on the news, and that night, we were home because I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite times. I love to just indulge into it. And, so we're there, we're on the news, and we're at home later, we're handing out candy, and this little boy comes to the door, and I don't know, he's like 8 or 9 years old, and he says, you're that lady that was on the news. And I said, yes, that's right, I am. And he said, you were a witch. And I go, that's right, they did. And, that's part of who I am. And he said, I said, does that scare you? And he said, no way. I think that's way cool. And it was really interesting because I was willing to stand my ground. I was willing to, at a time of masks and costumes, stand in my authenticity of who I was and not be afraid of it, knowing what I had presented opened a huge door for a lot of people. It helped people realize that it wasn't this scary thing, that it wasn't people sacrificing animals or doing all of this crazy things that people are used to hearing about and not knowing about. And so as I went into my shop over the next couple of days, I suddenly had all of these practitioners coming out of the woodwork going, thank you so much for, sharing the reality of things. And I had 65-year-old couples coming into my store going, I have to get this book, my daughter's a witch. And it was so interesting to see these barriers come down and to see people not in fear and to be getting these great responses. And, as a matter of fact, not only did I open the bridges there, but I also ended up having some people that were Christian counselors and priests for my clients and for customers along the way. I've also had some, musicians and other people that are now in that area as clients. And it was such an empowering experience. And I share this because this topic of masks and costumes and how many times do we hide behind it and what is the real value that they can give us. And it's important because, yes, there are times and places and we maybe use robes at times if you're a practitioner of Wicca or magic or things like that. I come myself from one side of my family is Druidic practitioners. And so very nature-based, not always wearing the robes, but, definitely a very nature-based culture in alignment with some of those things. And, there is a certain sacredness that goes with the so-called costumes that we put on. I mean, if you look at it, it's not just restricted to that. You look at Orthodox religion, and is not putting on that robe of the ministry also a form of a costume? It absolutely is. They put on, you look at the Catholic churches, and they put on the big headdresses, and they're higher up in the church, and the robes and the different colors, and those have different symbolism to them. All the time we have different costumes that we're putting on. And, there's some interesting concepts in this process because costumes and masks are part of our everyday life. If we really get into it, if we really get down to it, every single day we're putting on masks. Every single day we're putting on costumes. How many people put on a business suit and go to work? Every day. And in that aspect, they're putting on a costume. That may or may not have anything to do with them. Or it may be a part of exactly who they are, a side of themselves. And they put on their business face, their business mask, right? We have multiple masks that we wear. We have our business mask, and we have our family mask, and we have our friendship mask, and we have our relationship or our marriage mask, and then we have ourselves. We have our own mask. We have our athletic mask. It goes on and on and on and on. What we do each and every day is not every piece of clothing that we wear a piece of a costume. We accept this as human beings. We have to put clothes on. And, sometimes the clothes are the person that we hope to be. Sometimes the clothes are what we feel we're supposed to be along the way. So like with jobs and work, a lot of times it's what we are told we need to do and to show ourselves as. Sometimes when we get into more of our own playtime, going out to dinner time or different things like this or social time, and then we're starting to put on the costumes that we enjoy wearing. and going out in. And, really, if you look at any of our clothing, are they not costumes? Let's look at some of the styles and the dresses that are out there, and it really is. You look at different cultures, whether it's Asian cultures, Indonesian cultures, South American cultures, East Indian cultures. A lot of them have very ornate and very specialized dress. Even in the U.S., we will see, for example, a lot of East Indian women who will dress in their saris, and they will dress in traditional dress and headgear. And there is purpose and there is a reason behind it, but is it not a costume? Anything we put on our body, like I said, it's almost like here on the earthly plane, we have a costume on a costume. And that's kind of an amusing thought, isn't it? A costume on top of a costume in that aspect. We have the costume of our human skin and our human body, which is overlaying our soul being, and then we have the costume of clothing on top of the human body aspect. It's kind of like, how do you say, it's kind of like if you take 20 kids and you put them in princess outfits, and they're all princesses, but they maybe choose different colors for the fabric, and they choose different types of crowns, and they, choose different things like that to portray in there. And that's very similar to the way our human bodies are as well when we look at this aspect. So, what's interesting, I find, is that there's some interesting dichotomies that go along with this theme. And that is, if we wear a mask too much, if we look at just presenting ourselves always as we feel we need to be in situations, always presenting ourselves in a way to make us so-called acceptable to other people in the world, be it family, be it bosses, be it work, whatever it is, friends, we get into those pleasing spaces. And, when we wear a mask too much, what can happen is we can become that mask. And in the process of becoming that mask, we can actually lose ourselves. Now, one area, and those that have had a chance to check into my work, I have a great book out based on relationships, which is called You, Me, Life, Dream, Activating Your Perfect Relationship. And in there, I actually talk about different roles that we play. And the different roles that we play are, in essence, costumes and masks that we put on. And relationships are one of those areas that we do tend to lose ourselves to the mask or the costume. This happens more so with people in the feminine energy aspect of the relationship. A lot of times this happens with women because they're the ones that change their name, that give up their name and their aspects of themselves to become the name of the person that they're marrying in this situation. And so, when they do that, oftentimes then they become the wife or they become the girlfriend. And I couldn't even tell you how many times I deal with somebody, whether it is a guy calling me saying, my girlfriend says that she needs space and she doesn't know who she is anymore, or it's a woman calling me saying, I need some space and I don't know who I am anymore in there. And it's really hard because it is easy to do. And this comes back to, again, oftentimes I think that when we lose ourselves to the mask, it's a really good sign that we're living in a space of people pleasing. We're living in a space of trying to satisfy everybody else instead of being willing to be ourselves. It's a big concept. I'm gonna kind of go over that again. When we find ourselves where we're losing ourselves to our mask that we're portraying, be that the mask of the girlfriend or the wife or the husband or the father or whatever that is, we are in a people-pleasing space. And this is a huge, huge caution sign because usually once we enter the people-pleasing space, because it overlaps every area of our life, it might start in one area, but then it overlaps into every area. So, for example, if we are doing a lot of pleasing in our relationships, and then we're doing a lot of pleasing in our work environment, we're doing a lot of pleasing for family environment, we lose ourselves. And this is where some of the breakdowns occur, and we stop feeling fulfilled or satisfied in these different situations. And when we stop feeling fulfilled and satisfied, we oftentimes get to the stress levels, we get to the reaction spaces, we start freaking out, and that's when we start pulling back because we don't know who we are anymore. We've gotten lost in all the different personas that we had to play. You think about it, celebrities are also a really good example of this. And by the way, this does happen with men too, because men have a lot of personas. They're expected to put on the mask of somebody really strong. They're expected to be the provider. They're expected to be the guy's guy, and not be vulnerable and not show emotions and different things like this. So it does happen on that flip side as well. It's not just with women. But when we look at celebrities, for example, they're great examples. Professional celebrities, entertainers, musicians, models, all of the people in those kind of industries. And when you look at it, and even companies are trying to force this more and more on the average person, that it's not like they get to walk away from their job like the average person doesn't go do what they want. They are constantly in the limelight. They're constantly having to wear the mask of their celebrity persona. And to find any space and time, you think about it with a lot of these people, they are so pursued. I actually know several of them have multiple houses because they cannot stay in the same place 2 nights in a row without being hounded with photographers and people like that. They have no peace, no time to be themselves in this process. And, it's like a model. She better not ever be caught in public without a ton of makeup on and looking extremely photogenic if she's got any kind of a name or a reputation to her. Ironically, we're shifting this same concept into the everyday person's life as well. And what I see with this is, for example, companies are like, okay, you're a teacher, you cannot show up at the local strip club, which, might be a good idea in some realms, as far as having those standards and ethics and things like that. But how much are we going to intrude on somebody's personal life? You can't post things on social media. Your social media is being monitored, which means you have to put another mask on. And social media is oh my goodness, that's a whole nother realm of our masks and our personas. And I look at that now, people are, it gives them a chance to live their mask, to live a persona that they want to be, to live a persona that so-called pleases people and brings them joy. It just goes to show how much as human beings we're pleasers. We're pleasers, and then people wonder why they're not receiving. Well, if you're so busy pleasing, you're not going to receive things, which is why the 1% has what they have, because they're really good at receiving and they don't care about pleasing everybody. That's a good lesson for us to learn along the way, and we don't have to be selfish and mean and greedy and arrogant and power and controlling, but it's the energy that they're operating on. That's why they continue to hold that 1%, is because they don't care whether they please other people. They let everybody else please them. But when we look at social media, you look at it, social media used to be simply social media. It used to be something that you could communicate with people with, you could connect with people, and now social media is not only that, which you can still do that, obviously, but you look at, for example, all the people out there that try to pick you up on social media. You get people all the time that it's, all of a sudden they want to portray different things. They want to portray that they're single and they're married, or they try to portray that they're married, but then they're hitting on you. And these are something else for us to take a look at when we look at this, because just like drinking, it's almost social media can become an addiction that way. Just like drinking, people start to become, everything that's repressed starts to come out. They get to take on this alter ego, and our alter egos are the mask. And it's important for us to look at what part of that is truly us and what part of that is just an escape for us, and why are we not honoring and living that costume or that mask that we're portraying or trying to escape towards. If that's what we really want to be, that's what we should be. We should let that out. If we really want to be something else, we should really be something else. How many people go to a job, for example, every day, and they go into work and they don't like their job? It's not them. They feel controlled. They feel manipulated. They feel like they don't have their own time. They feel like there's all this rigid structure that they don't want to have in their life. There's no freedom to let out their personality. You look at the schools, even in our elementary schools these days, the kids are going to, and they are having to wear uniforms. The kids can't even create their own identity through clothes anymore, because somewhere clothes got branded as gang activity or different things like that. So now everybody has to wear the same clothes to school in a lot of regions and a lot of areas, and that's not reserved to private schools anymore. And for those of you that are just tuning in, what we're looking at today, my name, by the way, is Ann Nichols George, and I'm looking at the concept and the aspect of masks and costumes today, and how those play into our everyday life and how they influence us. But we're even imposing this now on our kids, where we're taking away that identity. And, how many of us go through these routines and do these different things, and it's not us. And I think in recent times, what is coming up with the various planetary alignments that we've had, the Jupiter or the Pluto-Uranus square series that we've had going on in things is really showing us that it's upheaving these structures that are not us. It's upheaving a lot of our masks and our costumes that we've been wearing, and getting us to step more into to the ones that are more who we are, that are more fulfilling for us, that are more satiating to our spiritual self along the way. So this is a big thing. Now, there's another aspect of, by being our true self, we can create a mask. We create a mask in that sense. And, that's created by what we choose to do and who we are. Again, we're multifaceted and we're multidimensional, and we shift masks and costumes with different parts of ourselves constantly. So, for example, if I am a person who really loves the personal development work, and on one hand, that is totally me. I am being myself. I'm living my passion by touring around the U.S. and expanding this work and bringing my message of compassion out, and I'm living myself. But there's still a certain amount of a mask that gets created. It's the mask of a compassionate lifestyle. It's the mask of a speaker, the mask of a radio show host, the mask of an author. Even though these are authentically my work, even though this is authentically how I live, there's still a mask that goes with it. There's still a presentation that goes with it, no matter how natural I portray it. And we don't think about that. Every role we take on, everything that we choose to do creates a mask. It creates a persona. As I mentioned in the example before, you're not going to wear a suit canyoneering. Now, you might not do canyoneering every day. However, when you do go canyoneering, you're going to put on the gear that you need to do it. And you're going to be a canyoneer that day. You put on the role and the mask and the costume of a canyoneer that day. No matter how much you enjoy doing it, there's still an aspect that you put on. When you go to the office, you put the suit on. When you make that big business meeting or big business connection, you probably put a suit on. And that's the role on the mask that you wear. It may be genuinely you. You may be that salesperson. You might be that CEO of the company and love it, and that is truly you. But there's still a mask there. So this is a very interesting thing, because in human existence, then the question really comes up, do we ever totally get out of the mask? You know, there are ways, maybe through meditation, maybe through energy work, astral traveling, which we talked about with Greg Doyle last week. Definitely a great show to go back and check it out on that. But can we ever really get out of it? You know, when we're feeling awake in our human self, we're in that mask no matter what we think. I think in the stillness, I think in the meditative spaces, we oftentimes can tune in more, but it's really the stillness. It's really that emptying out that we start to connect with our soul self, which doesn't need a mask. It doesn't need a body. It doesn't need a vehicle to function or to operate or to exist. We take it on. We take it on, again, to blend into this world and this dimension, because we're not at a point. This world and this dimension requires a grounding to function in it. It requires some sort of body vehicle aspect to move around in it. Otherwise, we're floating above and we're not actually able to do some of the moving around in it like we're used to and we're aware of and that we know in there. So this becomes a very interesting dichotomy. Do we become the mask? We simultaneously, we become the mask we're wearing, and when we're ourselves, we create masks as well. Because other people will also look at us and go, wow, I really like that you're authentically this way. I get that a lot from people. It's like, you really do live this stuff that you talk about. And I'm like, yeah, I really do live it. It's really me. And I love it. I love living this way. And yeah, there's a great authenticity, and in one sense, there's no mask. What people have known me as in different areas, they've known me as well when they meet me face to face. But there's still a mask of a human being here. There's the more, of course, I live in my spiritual self, my spiritual ways, the less mask there is in that sense, and the fewer masks that we wear, the fewer layers of masks that we wear along the way. Oftentimes this will create a space of safety for people where they feel comfortable opening up. Because they feel that there's very few layers there. They feel that there's a real spirit that they're actually being able to connect with or communicate with or things like that along the way in that process. So definitely that can make a big difference for us in the bigger scheme of things, if we want to say that there. And likewise, the more masks that we choose to play and hide behind, if we're using a mask to hide behind, we're oftentimes going to create greater fear for people around us. The more fear that we create, the less that they're going to want to connect with us, the less that they're going to want to approach us or share with us or things like that in there. So I think this is a huge topic when we're delving into it, because people are, with all the masks that they wear, it can be very hard to know who this person really is. What piece of big soul puzzle are they? Where do they play into things? And that can be really scary because how many times have you had people that presented themselves one way and they turned out to be something totally different, right? They presented themselves as this really nice, caring person, and then all of a sudden you find out they're this huge, abusive, violent person behind that. We see that a lot in that abuser pattern that people take on, the control and abusive pattern, and they'll present themselves to be very nice in the outside world, and look at how I take care of my family, and look at how I do this, and look at how I provide, and look at how successful I am, and look at how well I treat my wife, and I take her here, and I do this, and I do that. And then, they get behind closed doors, and all of a sudden the fists come out, and all of these other things come out in things. You look at the victim in that same pattern, and how many times do you see the victim, for example, saying that everything's okay? They put on the mask that everything's wonderful, everything's fine, we have the perfect family. And yet behind closed doors, they're living in terror, and they're living in fear, and they're living in, all of these other aspects that are going on for them. They're living that big, giant pleaser role. They're making excuses for things. Every excuse that we make, boy, there's a huge one right there. Every excuse that we make shows us a mask that we're wearing. Everything that we deny shows us a mask that we're wearing. That's something to really think about right there, right? If every excuse we make shows us a mask, because it shows us that we're trying to make ourselves believe that we're something other than what we are in that situation or that moment. If I make the excuse and say, I can't attend this event because I'm poor, I'm putting on the mask of a poor person. Now, it may be that I don't have money. It may be that I could go to that somehow, but if I went to that, it would mean maybe not paying my rent or other things, or making my car payment or whatever it is. And, if I get real with myself, I'll simply say, well, I choose not to go to that event. And I choose it because I don't feel like giving up my rent money or my car payment money to attend it. That is an authenticity. Whereas when we sit there and go, oh, I can't do this because I don't have any money, that's a mask that we're hiding behind. That's a costume that we're portraying in there. And, the state of our life is a huge costume that we're portraying in our life. A lot of people could look at my lifestyle now being on tours, and they can say, oh, my gosh, poor you. You don't have a home that you go home to every night, and you sometimes have to sleep out of your vehicle, which I do sometimes. I'm traveling long stretches, and I might stop at a rest stop and sleep at a rest stop every now and then. I certainly don't stay in hotels every night because, hotels are expensive, and that's not necessarily the solution for me. I enjoy being in the outdoors. I enjoy some camping aspects. I enjoy sometimes staying with friends, which I have offers for as well. But people could sometimes say, oh, my gosh, you're poor, you're this, you're that. And it's like, you know what? I don't. I feel richer now than when I was living under a roof somewhere in so many ways. And so as we delve into this, this gives us so many different perceptions to play. And oftentimes the mask that we choose, when we look at this concept, the mask that we choose is also what we're creating in our life. The costume that we choose to wear on a day-to-day basis is what we are creating in our life. And the masks and the costumes of others that we choose to have in our life are creating our life. Okay, these are all things that are playing into it. If we choose to have abusive people in our life, then we are creating a lifestyle of being abused. Now, there's a lot of pieces and layers to that, I know. So before people get kind of freaked out and start, throwing all kinds of stuff out there, that yes, there's a lot of layers to that situation. There's a lot of people that place themselves under the guise of the victim now out there. There's also a lot of people, especially we see this with teens and our youth, who play these bullies, who play these really tough kids. They play the badass, so to say, in things. And underneath, it's not who they are. There might be a lot of fear underneath that mask. There might be a lot of hidden things under that mask. We had this concept from Yehuda at the earlier part of the show in regards to sexuality. And there's a lot of people that hide behind their sexuality. There's a lot of people that drink and become very sexual. That's a hidden mask for a lot of people. The things that we repress in our life, and this is an important area for us to look at as well, what we repress in our life also behind a mask. So if we're repressing our sensuality, if we're repressing our strength, if we're repressing speaking our voice, if we're repressing our spirituality or our belief system, now there's a fine line between letting all of that out and having respect for others. There's a fine line between sharing your belief system and converting people, which I've, experienced at different times in my life, where people are trying to convince me that they're sharing their belief system, and in reality they're trying to convert me to their belief system. So, yes, there's some fine lines in these areas, but looking at those areas that are repressed for us, and this is why we want to honor all of these different sides of ourselves. We want to give them time to come out. We want to give them expression to come out because, for example, sensuality or sexuality is one thing we tend to repress because, we're told if you let that out, you're a slut. If you let that out, you're just flying to the earth. Well, as Yehuda pointed out, a lot of it has to do with how we let it out. It has to do with how we express it, because when we express it in, certain states of being, it becomes a mundane, basic act. It's not a spiritual process. But when we really embrace that side of ourselves, and we embrace that aspect of ourselves, it's not necessarily about putting on the sluttiest clothes that we can find. It's not necessarily about wearing all of those things. It's about the connection that we're having with another aspect of ourselves or another individual or human being. It is that balancing. It is the union of the masculine and the feminine. And when that's brought together in a spiritual space, for example, we have this incredible opening that happens in that process of things. So it's a really powerful thing. And what happens is, for example, when that's repressed, it's one of the first things that comes out when people, say, start drinking. We're on top of the holidays. People are going to tend to drink a little bit more than normal. They're going to imbibe. It's like, oh, we'll have a couple of glasses of champagne for New Year's, or we'll, have some champagne with Thanksgiving dinner, or whatever it is for that. Well, we'll go out and we'll have a couple of drinks, or we'll be at the office party and have some drinks, and these sides start to come out. That's actually exactly why a lot of office parties no longer serve alcohol. In my day of working for corporations many years ago, a few decades ago, it was common to go out as a group of employees and go to happy hour and to have alcohol at company parties and things like that. It it was part of the deal. But also, of course, in the lawsuits, happy days that followed in later years, that they started shutting that down, as companies were being sued because of different things, people getting in accidents, or employees hooking up, or sexual things coming out, because the inhibitions drop. The masks start to come down, the costumes start to come off in more ways than one, sometimes in those aspects and those events. So, those are the things that we need to think about. What's coming out when we're actually letting go of control, or when you're under an influence like that where you're not as controlled, because that's really going to show us a lot about who we are. Now, I'm not suggesting that people go out and drink, and I'm not suggesting that people go out and do whatever else to get to those states, but I do suggest that we look at what we're repressing. I do suggest at looking at what feels pushed down and not getting expressed in our life. What is not being given a costume or a mask, so to say, to come out through, because those are the areas that, eventually are going to erupt on us. Those are the areas that, the true self is eventually going to break through that mask and rip it off. And it could be at a very inappropriate or inopportune time for us to do. So always important to realize this. So again, the repression is an area that shows us where we're wearing masks. For example, you might have that, as Yehuda talked about, that huge sensual energy running, but if we're hiding that behind the mask of a nun garb, or of very pure outfits and things like that, people have heard me share some of my experiences along life, and I, in my younger years, would not have thought about the fact that I was repressing any sexual energy. That would not have been what I would have connected in my realm of masks and things like that. And yet, when I went out, I would dress really pretty conservatively. Places behind closed doors, there might have been some other things going on, but I would have dressed very conservatively. Well, what happened as a part of my life was between the age of 21 and 22, I ended up with 7 date rapes in 1 year at that point. And as I reflect back in my wisdom, I can see a lot of pieces related to that. But in relation to this theme here today of masks and costumes, one of the things that I can relate back to that is there was a repressed sexual energy. It wasn't given an outward expression appropriately through my everyday life. And what would happen would be other people would be, my dates, for example, would be tuning into that energy. And the fact that I was ultra-conservative created a bigger trigger there for them. And, as a result of that, it led to some unfavorable experiences for both of us along the way in that process of things. So, that's an example of the conflict, where we have conflict in our life, and there was repressed energy there that wasn't allowed an outward expression. Well, after that series of events, I definitely started dressing more to my sensuality and giving myself permission to be more sensual in my dress and style and clothing expression. And lo and behold, I stopped having issues in that area. I certainly didn't stop having dates or other things, but I stopped having date rape issues going on. So giving it that expression. And again, we want to find the balance in there that's appropriate to us, but, so much of it was I was raised in a conservative family overall. You didn't dress a lot of those ways, and certainly that also maybe created a little bit of tension in my family that I was willing to dress a little more sensual, but, we all got through it in the long run. And it's interesting to bring that back around, because having spent the last 7 years in Utah, it's extremely conservative in the dress there. and you're not allowed to dress promiscuous around the area that I was in. And so it's been a huge shift, and I have to say I really feel like I lost a part of my identity being in that area and not having more of that freedom of expression of dress in there. And that, of course, is shifting now that I'm out on the road full time and no longer living in that space. Now I'm not in the high promiscuous dress space, but it is shifting my energy again to allow me some freedom in my expression and in my style again there. And it's a big wake-up call. It just goes to show you, even after decades of working on yourself, that these little pieces can come up and that they can come through and that they can impact our life. So it's important for us to understand these different aspects. And, one of the things that I encourage people to do, and we can do a little meditation here, actually, is to just kind of, I'm looking at a couple of different things. Actually, I'm going to save this little visualization, and I'm going to come back to it closer to the end of the show. And I'm going to address a little aspect that, in the midst of all this as well, many people will wear masks because they accept what others tell them to be, but they wear them because they don't know themselves. They don't know who they are. They don't know their likes. They don't know their interests. So they just put something on and become that. And so it's a huge exploration set where I say, you know what, keep trying the different masks until you find something that feels like you. Keep trying the different things until you find that one that you feel really comfortable and natural in, right? If you go out in that costume on Halloween and it's really uncomfortable and it's really awkward for you to move around in, it's going to be hard to have a pleasant experience. But if you get that costume that you feel really comfortable in and you really enjoy wearing, then, you're going to have a great time and you're going to be able to really enjoy yourself. And life works the same way. It works the same way. So, one of the things that happens with masks is masks can also be personal reflections, like moonlight on the ocean. The ocean isn't the moonlight, but it reflects it to the moon. And, others wear masks as well in their life to show us who we are. That's part of the law of resonance that we see coming along. So, what we're seeing, what we're noticing in others, is what we're noticing. It's our perception. It may or may not have anything to do with how they're actually being, but it's what we're perceiving. And that perception is showing us some reflection of ourselves. So we want to take a close attention to that as far as what are other people showing us. Now, a little exercise here is for discovering our real self is to reflect on who we are, who is ourselves without others, without things around us, without jobs, okay? And, when we start to get down to this, if you removed all your titles, if we removed your job that you do, if we removed the other people around you, I know for some people they were like going, oh my God, what are you doing to me here? If we removed your house, if we removed the area you live in, if we removed all of this stuff, what would you have left? Who would you be? You had nobody telling you what to do. If you had no one enforcing rules or regulations on you, who would you be? And what would you do? And if we take that to deeper soul levels and we get down to it, we removed you off of Earth because Earth is also a connection. It's also a place, a thing that locks us in. And as we start to reflect on this, we realize, it comes down to that fundamental principle that we're nothing and we're everything, all rolled into one. We are that God self. We are creator. We are destroyer. We are all of it. And we're none of it. All at the same time. And that's where our real self is. And this really brings home that point and that aspect of the peace that on the face of this earth, we're always wearing masks and we're always wearing costumes. You're not going to get around it. So at least put on ones that resonate for you. At least put on ones that resonate for your soul. But, of course, we're also going to put on those ones that are going to teach us lessons. And we're going to draw in the ones that teach us lessons along the way because that's part of what we're here for. But I think the key is instead of just conforming to what everybody else wants you to be, honor your starseed roots. Honor your soul self, what it craves for. Honor the authenticity piece. And don't dress some way just because somebody else told you that's how you need to dress. Find your own style in it. Imprint your own place in it. About masks that they can do for us is they can also provide strength when we're afraid. We talked about that, right? We, talk about those different aspects of wearing something to cover our fears. And sometimes the mask can portray strength or confidence, and it can help us to achieve that. So, this is kind of like the phrase that you've probably heard 1,000 times, act like you are that way and you'll become that way, which I have many thoughts on. People know me, I can take one thought and I can have many thoughts and I can go and go and go and go on it. But that aspect of realizing that sometimes by portraying ourselves as strong or confident, actually helps us get there. And we do this in little things by challenging ourselves. I always, of course, suggest starting with the small steps, but we challenge ourselves, for example, to go take that exercise class and put on that exercise gear when we're not necessarily feeling comfortable about our body. We challenge ourselves to put the swimsuit on, even if we don't like necessarily the way that we look in it, so that we can go get the benefits of the sauna or different things like that. It's funny that, one of the stories I have with this is when I travel, I have my pictures and my hair is nice and smooth in my pictures, and that happens sometimes in real life, depending on where I am and what I do with my hair. But I remember this trip to California that I took, and I had a radio interview, and I knew that they were going to be taking pictures in studio. As a matter of fact, it was the first interview that I did with Greg Friedman, and he's in Newport Beach. And I get out to California, and my hair just does this huge poof thing. It just puffs out, really large and really wild kind of looking. And it just fluffed out all over the place. And, I had a choice right then and there to say, okay, here's what my physical body is doing. Here's the mask it's portraying. This is not me. My hair is smooth and everything else and things. And I had a choice to let that really shake me up and to really, influence my confidence levels and how strong I could have presented myself, or I had a chance to own it. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, what do I look like? And I go, well, I look like a blonde Diana Ross. That's what I look like at that time, because my hair was so poofed out. It was really funny. And so, I walked into the station and Greg is there and Danny Denaya's there, and I walk in there and I go, I just want to let you know my hair isn't ordinarily this way, but since I'm sporting the blonde Diana Ross look, I'm just going to own it. And I said, I think it's really cool that I can wear blonde Diana Ross. How many people can do that? And they both started laughing at me and being amused by it. It kind of took the tension out of everybody. But what I found in that is I found a certain confidence level. I let myself step into that, and I put on my confidence mask and my strength mask to a sense, and I owned it. And in owning it, I found a whole new realm of confidence. I found a whole new realm of me in that process to a certain extent. And that's a really exciting thing. It's like women. So many times I feel like I can't go out of the house. I don't have my makeup on. I look awful and things like that. But you know what? When you do a couple of times and you start to see you, there's a really beautiful side there. I talked about models constantly having to present themselves a certain way, constantly having to be under this influence of wherever they go, they have to be picture perfect. But interestingly enough, some of the most beautiful portraits in a model has to no makeup on. It might have enough just to smooth their skin out or something, but, without all the mascara and without all the eyeshadow and stuff. And that's where we really get to see some of their most striking, interesting, unique features that are really them. So, don't be afraid that sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes we need to put that on, and those little pieces sometimes can help us get to that strength space. So masks can also be very beneficial. Wearing the costume and the mask of a human being can be very beneficial to our soul process and understanding and what we're doing here. And there's always two sides to every mask. And we may start wearing a mask for one thing, for example, for business or to be a manager. And then, we start as being able to get people working together, but we have to be careful because that mask can just as easily be a bossy or controlling person. So there's always two sides to our mask. We might wear the mask of confidence, and underneath that confidence, there could be a lot of fear. There could be a lot of insecurity on the other side of it, or it could also be effective arrogance. Confidence and arrogance, there's a fine line between the two. And so when we look at the mask, it's important for us to understand what is the whole mask I'm wearing. It's not just one little piece, but it's very interesting how many times that we feel like we need to pull a mask out to have fun in our life, whether it's at Halloween or whether it's Mardi Gras or other aspects, a masquerade ball. There's a certain mystery that's there. Much like the Eastern women who wear the headdresses and they cover up everything but their eyes. There's a mystery there to unfold behind the mask. So it is important for us to know how we're wearing our mask and what mask we're wearing, and are we creating a mystery and an allure to be unfolded? Is it the the piece that we need to unveil along the way, or that we're allowing others to unveil, or are we hiding behind it? Are we cloaking out things? Are we putting a barrier between us and the rest of the world so that they don't see us? These are really important questions to ask ourselves. Now, as I promised, I do want to get to a little visualization here, a little work here, and I want to delve into this just a little bit here. I want you to take some time, get yourself comfortable, get yourself into a space, whether it's laying down or sitting, that you can breathe. If you're sitting, then cross your legs. And When we're doing our breathing, you want to breathe from the diaphragm area. Okay. Of course, that's where our solar plexus is. And we want a breath that could be that deep belly breath, okay? So when we inhale, our belly's going to expand. And you can put on the mask of the Buddha, the Buddha belly. And then when we exhale, then that breath's going to go back in and our stomach's going to flatten out. Okay? So you get to put on the mask of the Buddha and the mask of of the model. I don't know, whatever works for you in that. And just go ahead and focus on your breath for a little bit here. And the key is just to get those deep breaths going and to slow down your breathing so that your body can relax and you can kind of let go of this physical realm for a little bit. And I love meditation work because it really does let us set down the mask that we put on for others and to start to be with the costumes and the masks that are us. And just keep letting your body relax. And I want you to start to tune in now to the different masks and the different costumes that you wear. What are they? Reflect a little bit because this is a huge time of reflection for us. And we need to know this so we know in this transition of a spiritual, personal new year, in a sense, for many people, not just the mask that we currently wear, but what mask we want to wear. So I want you to focus on those. And I want you to start by focusing on taking off different masks and costumes that you currently wear. And I want you to look at you, who you are without all of these masks. Don't be afraid. It's not scary to look at your real self. Good close look at who you are without all these masks that you portray on a day-to-day basis. Take a look and see, how does that feel? How does that feel to see your real self? See your authentic self. And now that we're in this new year, I want you to take any mask that you feel done with, that you feel like, hey, I'm done wearing this mask of victimhood or poverty or whatever it is, and I'm going to return that mask. I'm going to give it away for somebody else who maybe they can benefit from some of that. Somebody else who wants to wear that mask for a while. I'm going to return that mask, and as I return that mask, I'm going to look over all the other masks that are out there, and I'm going to put on the mask that I choose to be. I'm going to put on and pull out the costume that maybe match more authentically who I am and who I choose for this upcoming next year, for the year from now until next Halloween. And as we do this, before we fully put them on or as we put them on, we're going to bless these masks. We're going to infuse them with divine energy, and I'm sending that out to each and every one of you, that your masks are infused with divine energy so you can experience them in their truth and not their distortion. You have the mask of confidence, that you will experience it as confidence and not arrogance, for example. And that it's not just a mask, but it's a reality for you. So if you're putting on the mask of wealth or beauty or other things, financial peace, whatever it is for you, that you actually have that, and that it's not just an illusion or just a mask that you're wearing, but that truthfully is yours. And just infusing it with the light of divine energy so that you can have that truth with you. And to realize that this mask isn't necessary. This mask is going to dissolve as you become that. As you step into your own divine self, the mask will dissolve, because you won't need it. And this can be anything. You can be this genuine, loving, compassionate person who's also beautiful and wealthy and prosperous and things. And to know that by being your true self in this mask, that you will bring out the most radiant aspects of the mask that you wear. No matter what area of life that is in, whether that's in your personal life or your business life, your relationship life or your family life, wherever that is. And just start to feel what it's like to be in that new mask that you've chosen for yourself. That new mask is your new style of life that you've chosen. And as you step into what you've chosen, things will arise to support you in this process and to be with you. And so once again, you do this, and you can always come back and explore these more on your own. Focus again on your breathing. and letting your breathing come back up to its regular, its normal pace, gradually, comfortably. And just let it restore itself. And just feel the joy moving through you as it comes back up, that you've now chosen the light to live. You've chosen the mask that you're going to wear. You've chosen to wear masks that are authentic to yourself. And as you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes, move around. And just be grateful for what you're getting ready to explore and to move into as a result of what you've chosen. This is an exciting time. It's a time to celebrate. And, you know, on Halloween, get into the season. Dress up. Go have fun with the kids. Get out there and play a bit. Enjoy being festive. Because being festive is who we really are. It is our soul process. It loves to rejoice in the season and the celebrations. And even though, on one hand, this is an earthly celebration, also a spiritual celebration. And I also want to encourage you to, you know, each and every day, not just on Halloween, but Halloween's a great time to do it. Go out in the world, wear the masks that are important for you to wear, that match the tools or are the tools of what you're doing, but are also yourself. And at the end of the day, come home and take that mask off and take a look at you without the mask. Look at your soul self. Look at your divine self. Because you know what? It's so beautiful, and it doesn't need the mask, and it doesn't need the costumes to hide behind. It's already confident, which is why the masks and the costumes dissolve into it, because they're not needed. And take the time to really connect with that. Look in the mirror and know who you really are, and don't be afraid, and you don't be judgmental of yourself. Because when you're really looking at you, there's nothing short of incredible divine spirit there. There's nothing short of the creative force itself there. It's not scary. There's nothing to judge because it's perfect, just the way it is. I've really enjoyed bringing this show to you today, and you know, it's amazing for me to delve into these concepts, and I love holiday themes, and I love how much they have to offer us and to teach us and to help us. And this has been an amazing gift to be with you at this time. Next week on the show, I'm going to be bringing on Holly Hallowell, and she's going to be sharing her work with Healing Jewels. Some of you that have listened to my show before may have remembered her. She done some advertising for a little while on the show here, and she has a really, really unique product that she's developed. Matter of fact, I use the product that she develops, and I absolutely love it. It's such a gentle energy and beautiful energy to work with. So we're going to be delving more into what Healing Jewels are all about, and that's JOULES, by the way. And also, just a reminder, my books are out there. They're available. You can check them out. You can purchase them through my website, Ann Nichols George, #1.com. The relationship books are designed to help you activate the perfect relationship for you, and you will learn how to find, develop, and maintain that perfect relationship and to learn how to understand what your partner's thinking, feeling, needing, and how to communicate in ways to strengthen your relationship and to avoid the drama. Our producer often likes to say, he goes, you're like the really evolved version of men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Because I don't really put it in men and women terms so much as the masculine, the feminine energy when I write these books, so it spans all different relationships. And then, of course, the first books I wrote, Activating Compassion, all about how to live a compassionate life and how that can benefit you and how that can open up to leading a really amazing, fulfilling life. And delves into things of not only being compassionate with others, but being compassionate with yourself and all of life around you. I do have several events still going on for 2014, and they're really exciting. Matter of fact, coming up this weekend, of course, I'm in the Atlantic City area, and then the first weekend of November, well, I should say actually technically the second weekend of November, on November 8th, I have a full-day event going on in the Washington, D.C. area. The following weekend, or the following couple of days, actually, on the 11th, I have an event going on near the Atlanta, Georgia area, which is a 2-hour workshop in the evening. And also on the 15th, have a full-day event going on, a little outside of the Atlanta, Georgia area, the Adventures of Integration event going on, which is all about, we really get into exploring the depths of what's happening in our life, and we look a lot of signs and symbols and parallels and looking at things from different perspectives and really delving into the different things that we are dealing with in our life. And we look at also not only ourselves and how that connects, but also our connection with other people in the world. We also do healing for the environment and the universe during those events as well, as an expression of gratitude for the day and our understanding and things like that. So it's a multi-faceted aspect where we delve into the integration aspects through nature and use nature as our teacher and to learn by. And then after I leave the Atlanta area, I'm going to be heading out to San Antonio, Texas, and I will be taking private sessions there. I have both private sessions and workshop events going on, and I was just going to tune in and pull that up actually for you so that you know where those are. And that's actually the 3 days preceding Thanksgiving that those events are going to be going on. And I'm probably going to spend a little time around the Arizona area. I'm not sure. I'm looking at some possible venues around the San Diego region and California still to come this year. So there's actually a lot of different pieces that are coming up along the way here. And we're also going to have a full-day event the Saturday following Thanksgiving as well. In there. And the place that I'm going to be in San Antonio, Texas, by the way, is the Unlimited Thought Life Enrichment Center. And there are some really amazing people doing some great stuff there. So definitely, even if you don't come in for an appointment or an event, we're going to be doing a thought song event there. You're welcome to check that out and see what that's more about. But you can also just pop in and say hi to me if you're around that San Antonio region. I know I've got several connections out there. And again, the Adventures of Integration Day will also be in that region at the Medina River Greenway, which should be really fun and exciting. And, of course, I'm closing out the year in Utah, in southern Utah, at Zion National Park. So that will be with the Winter Solstice event. And depending on who chooses to sign up for that event, we could do some really, really cool stuff there that is so exciting to delve into with that. So, again, my November special actually is out right now, and I've got that up and available. And anybody who signs up for any full one-day or weekend event and they participate in that before any event that they participate in before the end of the year, they will receive a full 1-hour coaching session with me as well that they can take advantage of it at any time. It doesn't have to be that weekend, They could take advantage of it at any time because I can work with people by Skype or by phone as well. So those are some different options there. So lots of things happening. That's where the Compassion Tour is at. Check it out. Also on my website, you're going to find video tips, which I put out every month, usually around the full moon. You can see the upcoming shows, the archive shows, not only for Activating Compassion, but for all of the shows here on the Main Street Universe Network. And, you know, you can catch the specials and just all kinds of information, things that, products that my guests have put out along the way. And so lots and lots of options there for you. Don't forget that we do have several shows here on Main Street Universe throughout the week. Sunday nights we have Darren Becaire, who's a reader at Madame Laveau in New Orleans, doing spiritual insights. And hopefully I'm going to get a chance to connect with Darren as I pass through his area, which I'm really excited about. Monday nights is Randy Goldberg doing Vedic astrology. Tuesdays we have Susan Weed, who's sharing her work in herbs and natural plants, and she's incredible. She packs so much information into a half-hour show. It's unbelievable. And so if you're interested in herbs and natural plants, check out her show on Tuesday nights. Wednesday nights we have our flagship show, and that's with Daniel and Janice. And they do all kinds of things. Sometimes they have guests on. Sometimes they're doing readings. Sometimes they're doing kind of ritual things. Like this past Wednesday, 2 days ago, they were doing something for Samhain on there, or Samhain, as some people pronounce it, depending on who's talking in there. And then they also just have times that they talk about different topics as well. So that's really exciting. Thursdays and Saturdays, we're starting to open up to a whole bunch of round table of shows, which means there will be shows that will be coming on like once a month, and we have an amazing lineup of people that are coming into doing those shows, and it's going to be a wealth of variety of information to check out. And, of course, we have Kevin Baird on our network, who does Walking on the Sidewalk with his Horizon Oracles Journeys deck. That's a deck he created, which you can check out more of that at templeofgaia.com. And then, of course, on Fridays, and, of course, we're still adjusting the time right now, is Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. And we do have some exciting people coming up along the way on the show for guests, as well as I'm going to continue to do some of my own shows, since that was a high request from our listeners, that I offer up some of my own insights and shows without guests. So we're going to do a little bit of everything here, it looks like. This is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I want to thank you so much for being here with me today on Halloween. Thank you to all of our listeners, not only on Blog Talk Radio, but also those streaming live on PEN, known as Pair Encounters Network, StreamFinder, and TalkStream Live, as well as those catching our shows and our podcast at iTunes and TuneIn.com, and those catching it through the YouTube version of the show, which lately, because of being on the road, it's taking me about a week or so to get those shows up, 1 to 2 weeks to get them up on the YouTube version, just to let you know. I look forward to seeing you back here next week as we delve more into Activating Compassion. Hey, don't forget, if you've enjoyed the show today, to share it with others. It's going to be available at the same link in our archives. And I'm going to leave you with our closing song, known as Yearning For, also known as Over and Over. It's by Shimshai. And don't forget to check out Shimshai's work at www.shimshai.com. That's S-H-I-M as in mask, shai.com. They're on Facebook as well. They oftentimes, when they release different CDs and things, have downloads that you can get. It's really incredible music, and I really love the energy that they bring into the world. So check them out as well. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again next week right here on Activating Compassion. May you enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a truly amazing week. And also, definitely have a very happy Halloween.
And if I could see what makes me blind, I would soar to the edge of my mind, and to touch what seems unreal, just to show you the way that I feel. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune caught in a balance of sun and moon. Oh, deep inside, the light within, shining to show you it's it to begin. When all I have is all I need, I will soar to the edge of eternity, and we see it eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine, and we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for. Yearning for. When all we have is all we need, all that we ask for shall be received, and we see in eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine, and we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man, and we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside, and we are in tune with the tune of life in the circle and love in bloom. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart is still yearning for. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk